This presentation is brought to you by the Beljanski Foundation. Over 50 years of research towards curing cancer the natural way.
I'm here to talk to you guys today about the placebo effect, but more importantly, about beliefs, your thoughts and your beliefs, and how they may affect or relate to your physical body and your behavior patterns. So, how many of you think that there may be a relationship between your beliefs and your health? Okay, great. So on a scale of like 0% to 100%, how many of you think that your beliefs are 100% responsible for your physical health? A few. Okay. How many of you think that they're 75% responsible for your physical health? Okay, great. And then the rest is physical or emotional. How many of you think about 50%? Okay, 25%? And 0%. Okay, cool. So everyone's pretty open to the option that beliefs have some sort of effect. So I've been very interested in this question for quite some time. I've been practicing for about 10 years. And I've worked with all different types of patients, hundreds of different types of patients. And I'll tell you, there's been very, very different things I've seen with patients who've been willing to acknowledge their thoughts and beliefs about their body and their emotional connection to their body, and those that really just work with the physical part of their body. And, and we're full human beings, so in some ways, if you're just working in the physical realm, we're missing a whole 2/3 of the human experience in a way. So as I became more and more curious about this, I started to look at if there's any scientific proof that your beliefs actually do affect your physical body. And with that, one of the first things we came across, one of the things that we're first taught in medical school is about the placebo effect. How many of you are familiar with what the placebo effect is? Okay, great, excellent. So the placebo effect, just straight out of Google, very simple, is a beneficial effect produced by a placebo drug or treatment, which is basically a sham treatment, like a sugar pill or distilled water or something that is a fake treatment that cannot be attributed to the properties of the placebo itself, but must therefore be due to the patient's belief in the treatment. Now, this concept was discovered in 1772. That's over 200 years ago. So we've known for over 200 years that there's some relationship between our beliefs and our body and how that works, right? Okay, so then I became more interested. There are hundreds of studies, by the way, from over the last 200 years to show that there's a very clear relationship between the beliefs and the body. And over at our table, if you guys are curious, there's a whole packet of studies essentially that show this relationship. But I just featured 4 here because I thought they were interesting. And the reason I chose these 4 is because they show specifically that the belief doesn't just relate to curing the disease, but very specific. Our beliefs can be very specific. So the first one, it was a sham acupuncture study. And this study had acupuncture needles that retracted into their applicator. So when they went to stick the needles in, no needle went in. The needle retracted into the applicator and no acupuncture was actually accomplished. No acupuncture was done. However, this was done in IBS patients. 44% of the IBS patients had relief of their symptoms. If it was done with empathy and compassion by the practitioner, 62% had relief. That's more than half of the people. So there's more of an effect in some ways from the belief than there is the actual treatment, which to me was astounding. So the next study showed that there can be a specific effect of on dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain in Parkinson's patients. So the first study shows it's more of a physical or a touch kind of a technique. The second study shows that it's a very chemical relationship, and that the belief that they had in the treatment actually triggered the neurotransmitters to be released in a specific way. The third study was on pain. So this was a sham morphine study. So basically, instead of giving IV morphine, they gave distilled water in the vein. Endorphins were released in the body. Pain went away. The last one was pretty awesome. This one was with cancer patients. And the effect was so profound that even just reading the side effect profile of cancer, what happened was if people knew that chemotherapy has a side effect of losing your hair, then the people who took the sham treatment, it was not chemotherapy, actually lost their hair because they believed that that would be a side effect of the chemo treatment. So it's pretty amazing. It's not just healing the body from the treatment, but it's also if there's side effects and if there's any other bad effects or unpleasant effects. So I've been pretty interested in this whole process. There's one particular story that stood out to me in particular that I want to share with you guys very, very briefly. And this is the story of Mr. Wright. Now, Mr. Wright was a patient of Dr. Kloffler's, and this case was published in the Journal of Projective Techniques and Personality Assessment. And Dr. Kloffler gives an account. I'm going to give the very, very brief cliff notes because I have a lot to share with you. If you want the whole study, we have the whole story, and it's super interesting to read the details. But the super brief cliff notes are that Mr. Wright was an older gentleman who had cancer metastatic everywhere throughout his body. He had tumors the size of softballs in his throat, in his axilla, underneath his diaphragm, and throughout his whole body. His thoracic ducts were clogged because of the cancer, which means the lungs were filling up with this milky white fluid. Every day he needed to have his lungs drained of fluid just so that he would be able to breathe. So he was in the hospital continually, basically on his deathbed. The doctors didn't believe that he would be able to heal from this cancer at all. He heard about this amazing golden opportunity, as he expressed it. And this was a new drug called cribiazine that was going to be released. That was an experimental cancer drug. Now, he was super excited about this drug, and I mentioned that on purpose because he already had a belief, not only a belief, but he had an emotional enthusiasm about this drug. So he went to his doctors, and he pretty much enrolled his doctors to give him this medication when he wasn't even qualified for the study because his life expectancy was too short. So long story short, doctors did give him the medication. Within 2 weeks, all of the tumors melted, gone. Throat, axilla, diaphragm, all of them gone. He flew in a plane, 1,200 feet, completely comfortable, no symptoms. Symptoms were gone for 2 months. After 2 months, there was a newspaper article that released information that cribiazine didn't work. The other patients that received the cribiazine did not have the response that he had. So something was going on that was different, that he responded and the other patients didn't. So as soon as the newspaper article came out, unfortunately, Mr. Wright was logical and scientific. He believed what was in the newspaper, and all of the tumors began to recur in his body, and he fell into depression, and he wound up back in the hospital. Now, his doctor got smart at this point, and he realized that Mr. Wright has a certain optimism that he may be able to take advantage of. At this point, there was nothing else that they could do to help him. So the doctor ran an experiment of his own. And he basically decided to give Mr. Wright a placebo without telling him, gave him distilled water instead of the cribiazine, and he told him, listen, what the newspaper said wasn't true. The cribiazine actually works really well. It was just a bad batch. The first batch degraded in the bottle. They've come out with a new super duper batch of cribiazine, and we're going to be able to give that to you in 2 days. So he gave him 2 days to get all excited again, get his emotions on board, get his belief going in the right direction, right? And then he gives him the distilled water and tells him it's going to have an even better effect than the last time. His tumors melted again in less than 2 weeks this time. Body completely healed, all the tumors gone. 2 months later, the newspapers released the final debrief on the carbazine, basically saying that the medicine has no effect. Unfortunately, at this point, Mr. Wright had no hope, and his golden treatment no longer worked in his belief system. So at that time, 2 days later, he died. Yeah. I became a little disturbed by this. The doctor, Dr. Kloffler, tried to explain to Mr. Wright that he had given him a placebo, that he had given him distilled water, that it wasn't the treatment that cured him, but it was his belief that cured him, or something of the sort, because it wasn't the medicine. And nobody else had the same benefit that he did. But still, Mr. Wright, I think he wanted to live. It was very clear that he wanted to live. But he still wasn't able to make the shift to believe that it was possible for him to heal himself. So I have a hypothesis. I have a hypothesis that this perspective shift, this change in paradigm in his belief was too big of a jump for him to make, to really believe that it was possible, that he was responsible for healing his body. So I ask all of you, everyone see this pen? Anybody not see this pen? Okay, good, you're with me, you're laughing, good. So this pen, if I were to say that this pen, I'm going to drop it and it's going to float, how many of you would believe me? Good, we're all sane. Excellent. Okay, so if I were to tell you that it was possible for this pen to float, none of you would believe me. What would make it possible for you to believe this? A belief, maybe a belief. Would you need to see it with your own eyes? And then probably you'd still be like, okay, where's the string, right? Like she's hanging it from a string from the ceiling, this isn't really possible. So you'd have to see it with your own eyes, and you'd probably need to see it more than once, and you'd probably need to come here and try to like cut any strings possible and debunk the whole thing, right? So not only would you need to see it once, but you need to see it happen over and over again to be able to break the belief. I mean, how long have you guys been living in your bodies? 20, 30, 40, 60, 80 years? Some of you? So you have a belief that your body works a certain way, right? Do you think it's easy to change the belief if you've experienced it over and over for 40 years? Maybe not, right? We might have to challenge that. You may have to really be committed to opening your mind and seeing that there's other data that might be possible. So there's many other cases. This is Bob Cafaro. He healed himself of MS. There's another case, Louise Hay, who's healed herself of vaginal cancer. Now, there's multiple studies. I don't need to bore you guys with those, but really the big question is, so why aren't we doing this? We have 200 years knowing that the placebo works. We have numerous studies that show it's possible for spontaneous remission. How many of you right now have some sort of illness, injury, dysfunction that you wish you could snap your fingers, believe it would go away, and it would go away? That's it? You guys are at a wellness conference here to get well, and there's like 5 of you that have an illness? Come on. Seriously? How many of you have something in your body that you would like to have improved, get better, get healthier, something? All right, now we're awake. Thank you. Good. Okay, so if that's the case, why aren't we able to just believe that it's going to get better and it goes away? Okay, so I think step 1 is awareness. Wow, geez. Okay, 3 minutes. We're going to go faster. Step 1 is awareness. You need to be able to see that it's possible. You need to be able to see the things that are hidden, that you're not able to see right now. And this is exactly what our company does. This is exactly what XOSO does. It makes the things that you can't see visible to you so that you can see them. Your behavioral patterns, your emotions, your beliefs that you don't even know are running in your subconscious. It brings them to the conscious forefront so you can see them. And my team put together a little bit of an example so that you can experience what that's like. So take a look at the words here, see if you can read them, and if you notice anything. You guys see that when you first looked at the letters, you couldn't see what was hidden in the letters, right? There was a hidden message. You weren't aware of it. But now if you look at the message, you can't unsee it, right? You know it's there. So that's exactly how the company works. The tools help to bring those things to your awareness so that you see them, and then you have the opportunity to decide if you want to change it. So the next step is, so first you become aware. The next step is deciding whether or not you want to change it, right? Now, how many of you have had a bad habit, cigarette smoking or compulsive eating or drinking or something that you've tried to change? Was it easy? How many of you have quit smoking? Awesome. Was it easy? Was it like the hardest thing you've ever done in your life? It was hard, right? Changing our behavior is hard. So there's a few things that we think are very important to be able to change your behavior. First, the belief that it's possible. Second, proper motivation. Do you want to do it? Are you committed to making the change? It's going to take everything you've got to want it. Accountability. Is there a team? Is there a group of people that can help hold you accountable? Is there a team that can pick you up when you're falling and you can pick them up when they're falling? Discipline. When it's hard and the cake is sitting on the table in front of you, can you build the discipline necessary to not choose the old pattern of behavior? Compassion. Can you be compassionate with yourself when you screw up? Can you get right back on track? And the last one is persistence. Do you have the persistence to continue to choose the new pattern until your brain is wired in the new direction? Does that make sense? So in XOSO, we realize that it's not just as easy as becoming aware of the disease and becoming aware of the ability to heal it, but you've got to have a pathway and you've got to see scientifically and systematically how you can change the behavior. So we put together an 8-platform system that can help you, Sahajo, to be able to put those things, to be able to make the changes you want to make. So here we've put together not only the tools to help you become aware of the subconscious things that you're not aware of, but then also all of those other things, the team, the persistence, the discipline, all of the things necessary for you guys to be able to actually make the changes that you want to make in your life. Now, I'm going to close up in a second, but how many of you had some sort of dream or had some sort of goal physically with your body? How many of you have a goal with your body right now? Good. Okay, that's wonderful. How many of you believe that that goal is possible? Okay. How many of you had a goal, tried to change it, failed a bunch of times, and have kind of given up on it? Yeah, right? Thank you for sharing. I know that these are uncomfortable questions, but I hope to encourage a spark of possibility in all of you and share with you that it is possible to make some of the changes that maybe you just didn't know how to make before. And there are tools now that we have that can help you to be able to make those changes and become aware of maybe why you couldn't make those changes before. So, no, go back, please. Just backwards, yeah. So XOSO has 8 different platforms. The social platform, I'm not going to speak about. The physical platform, there's both physical exercise and then there's also wellness program. So the physical program, there's different routines that are created that help you become aware of how your body works. The wellness program includes nutrition, food, sleep, all the other things and how they affect our body. The emotional mastery program, it teaches you exactly how your emotions work scientifically, how to bring them up, how to bring them down, how to transition them, all of those things. So you're not dependent on anything in the external world for your joy, for how you feel day to day. The thought program is not developed yet. It's in development, as are many of these things, still growing. But the thought program is a thought mastery program that helps you understand how your thoughts work. And still mind is the sense of you beyond all of those things. So you understand how your body works, how you create disease, and how you can uncreate it if you see how you created it. So it takes the things that are seemingly miraculous cures or spontaneous healings, and it makes the things that seem like miracles scientific, reproducible, possible for all of us to be able to do it once we see how it can be done. And these are reproducible, and I'm sorry, we're out of time, I want to just, everybody, Isabella, raise your hand. I want all of you to come to the table and meet Isabella. She is an amazing woman who has used these tools and has overcome a syndrome that doctors said is incurable, Tourette syndrome. So if anybody knows or doesn't know what that is, it's constant tics or vocal tics that continue to happen that doctors have said are completely incurable. And Isabella has had that for 14 years, and right now she's standing in front of you completely tick-free, and she's a persistent and amazing woman that has used these tools to overcome that. Yes, absolutely. So thank you all so much for your attention. There's a few ways for you guys to be able to get involved, Sahajo. And those things, there's building careers with us. We're building centers in different places. We believe this is revolutionary. We believe this will really change the way medicine is done in the world. And we're looking for passionate entrepreneurs, business people to help us spread this throughout the nation and throughout the world.